What's going on? Boys, arm yourselves. We are covering two, maybe three topics today, and we'll try to keep them brief. I try not to speak or think in image much, and I don't like it when people use image around me, and especially when they try to push image on me, which is usually because most people are attached to images, not to reality. One of the things old Bon talks about is if you want to control a crowd, you shouldn't use arguments or reason or even words that much. You should focus on images because images are what strike people, stick with them, and motivate them. Now, Bon, in addition to the way we're using image, means image as an actual image, but we're using it two ways here. One, as a fantasy, and two, as a canned concept network, or the color corrected, carefully edited photo that looks realer than real but is not real in the concept sense. For our purposes, some image examples would be A Great America, or the white picket fence 50s, during which or in which everything makes sense, everybody likes each other, and everything just makes sense. You know, a world that makes sense. A cabin in the woods, in the rain, with a fire going and a nice book. A political system in which everything works the way it's supposed to, and everybody's happy. And all the bad people, of course, have been put up against walls and all that. The perfect relationship with someone who gets it, and you guys go on adventures together and spend a lot of quality time together, and it just works. They get you, you know? An open and honest dialogue, whatever that is. These are all fabrications. They trick you into believing these images, these fabrications, can exist as you imagine them or describe them, and they trick you into believing you're going to be happy or the world is going to be better or things are going to work if you could only achieve them. And that is where the second level of trickery comes in. Not tricking you about them, but tricking you in their interests. Against reality's interests, almost always against your interests. Because when you let one of these images or fabrications, and I think we're going to stick with fabrication as the word, when you let one of these fabrications trick you into believing that this can exist and would work if it did exist, then you are driven to do one of two things. Either you are trapped chasing something that isn't real, and even if you could bring something close to it into existence, it would be like a Pandora's box situation, or a Lovecraft situation, or some kind of horror situation, in which the moment you achieve what you think is going to be this great fantastical thing turns out to be horror, or you are stuck trying to conform reality to something that doesn't exist, which I view as different from chasing. With chasing, you are trying to build something not real. With conforming, you are overlaying this fabrication. You're wearing fabrication colored lenses, trying to line everything up, and it's never going to line up. In any case, the end result leaves you in a few situations. First and foremost, you are disconnected from reality. You are severed, your connection is severed from the majesty of creation. You know how parasites get in bugs' heads? and manipulate them or override their senses or immune systems or whatever and lead them to take actions against their interests. That's what these fabrications do, these images. They cut you off from reality and leave you gunning towards something that isn't real and is going to hurt you, and probably will hurt others. Chasing these images leaves you at minimum dissatisfied, constantly, because the dream is never getting any closer and things are never lining up the way they are supposed to. Naturally supposed to, according to this image. More likely, it is going to make you imposy and indignant. Because this image, this fabrication, looks so good in your head, there is no way the world would not benefit from having this image brought to fruition. Meaning, when people don't cooperate with your image, you can impose on them and hurt them and ruin them in any number of ways because you know best. You know best because you have this image that looks so good in your mind. And when reality doesn't cooperate, and it never will, it's not this image's fault. It must be those other people's fault. Whoever those other people are. Real life example I've held on to for years because it captures what we're describing here, but back then I wasn't able to put it into words correctly. This dude had an idea for solving all the world's problems, and all we needed to do to solve all the world's problems was get a bunch of the wisest people alive together and have them talk for a month in some manner or something, and then do whatever they say. I didn't realize the solution was that simple. I didn't realize the key to world peace and getting everyone everything they've always wanted was that. I didn't realize it was that easy. And I asked what qualifies these people as wise, or who would determine these people as the wisest people, which hating your younger self is very easy, because younger you, if you're doing life right, is always going to be stupider than present you, but at the time, good question. And the dude didn't answer the question and called me a postmodernist and then stuck to the image. Or if I'm remembering correctly, diverted to another topic because preserving the image with image mind people, the image can't afford to be challenged. And I use that example because it shows you the mechanics of these images, these fabrications, clearly. Most people are not going to be that generous with you. They're going to bury those mechanics are clear, but they're going to bury them under layers and layers and layers of obfuscation and interference, specifically to keep that image preserved, protected. These images, fabrications, parasites are things, solutions, and actual images that can exist or can function only within your mind, because your mind is so much less complicated than creation is. If you could create an existence based on your own mind, then yes, that image would probably work. But creation is not your mind. These images are idolatry and self-set bear traps. They separate you from the world of the real and set you up to hurt yourself and others. And I don't want to say live an empty life, because you can live your entire life in falsehood land and no harm, no, well, some harm, some foul, but there's nothing incorrect about that. If it were incorrect, it wouldn't be a possibility. But the reason I bring these things up and use idolatry as a word, loaded word, is we are experimenting with the idea of reality as holy. And when I say reality, I don't mean an objective reality. I don't mean, oh, when I say objective reality, what I mean is any one person's best efforts at an interpretation of reality just so. That is the way contemporary atheism operates. The atheist, or atheist plus, maybe, tells you this set of assumptions and concepts is the way reality works, and it should amaze you. We're all stardust. Oh shit. Mind explosion. I don't know about you, but there's no wonder in that to me. And thinking about it, spent a lot of time thinking about this over the years. The reason that doesn't amaze me when it should is it's not reality, it is an interpretation of reality. Images. Things are supposed to line up this way, but they don't. Let's say there is no God or higher power or anything like that. Still, contemporary human atheism does not contend with reality. Because even without a higher power, things never work the way we say they are supposed to work. We are always wrong. We are learning, but there are no conclusions. What we know versus what we don't know, we might as well not know anything, it feels like. And that is where the majesty comes in. The majesty of creation. The majesty of is. Terence McKenna, why have only one answer? I show you an apple. Here comes the white light upon the apple. What is this apple? Well, you could correctly say it's an apple. You could also say it is a fruit. You could also say it's a food. You could also say it's an apple in the English sense with this definition. You could say it is an apple that grows in this part of the world. You could say it is an organic machine that does this or that in these ways. You could say it is one part of an ecosystem, and this is the function it serves within that ecosystem. You could say it is red. It's a really pretty shade of red. You could say it's the first thing you ever painted, an apple. You could say it is the first thing you remember eating. You could say it is a collection of atoms, or chemicals, or whatever. I'm not a chemistry person. Those things that look like little chains that hook up to each other. I'm a caveman. I don't know. You could spend your entire life studying apples and not figure everything out about apples. When they first evolved, proto-apples, apples in history, apple anecdotes or analogies. You could spend your entire life studying apples in literature, and then you could spend an entire lifetime doing that exact same thing in a different language and experience something completely different. Or do the exact same thing living in a different place. Do the exact same thing living in a different time or on a different planet. The point we are making here is not that there is no objective truth. It is the complete opposite. There is more truth and more ways to understand and appreciate that truth than you will ever comprehend. And this is all operating under the assumption you are working just from your base level human mind. The amount of truth out there, not to mention in the simplest things, is overwhelming. It's incomprehensible. There are so many things to know and so many ways to know them. And that all is operating just without you. When you add yourself to that equation, you add something equally as incomprehensible. Why doesn't the world make sense? Because there is too much sense to make for your limited human mind to make sense of it all. It's not that there's no sense, it's that there is too much sense. Reality is impossibly fine. Is on more levels than we'll ever be able even to scratch the surface of. The only thing incorrect, in fact, is your idea you can figure it all out. Is this not lining up because it's wrong? Or because you assumed you could line it up correctly? And we are never going to get away from images no matter how hard we try. But I dislike idealistic people, I dislike philosophers, I dislike political people, I dislike dogmatic, organized religious types, I dislike image fabrication people, people who relish in image and fabrication, because they're charmats. That's what it is. False dreamers. Little false gods all. They idolize the limitations of their own minds and presume their minds to be reality. And if they were just doing this to themselves, that would be one thing. But no, anything that isn't within their limitations is a challenge to their divinity and must be destroyed. And even that, if they want to do it, fine. I'm going to hate you for it, because you are trying to separate me from creation and prevent others from accessing creation. Accessing might be the wrong word. We're all in creation at all times. But what I mean is not just liberating yourself from the demiurgish concepts generated in the limitations of your mind so you can pay as much attention to creation as you can, because you're never, as long as we're humans, we're never going to get out of this shit. But also start trying to capture or swim in, or if nothing else, just appreciate truth in its chaotic, limitless, ever-expanding wellspring form. Maybe we aren't on a path, maybe we are on a tour. But again, if nothing else, just getting to feel reality, the majesty of reality, a little bit, from time to time, I think could change lives. Or not. It doesn't matter. Nobody says people should do this, and reality says Not all people can do this, but it's an interesting state of mind to get to if you can. And the reason I started this video saying these are all experimental ideas is actually case in point for all this. We are trying to fit reality into our understanding as if we can. You can know so many things, but you can't know a percent of everything. And even if this way of thinking is just another step on the path, there's something here. There is a majesty in reality worth letting yourself feel. Not chasing, not conforming, not fighting. Just learning about what is in as many ways as you can, and standing in awe of how many things in how many ways you are never going to know. It is an inspiring feeling, and the fact it feels good leads me to believe all of this is bullshit. But for now, chug along, do your best, stand with your jaw open at an apple, and we'll see what happens. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.